I recently made a dessert bento box with 3 different types of aesthetic desserts and gave it to my friend Violet.
No, you can't.
And looking back, it's not really a walk in the park. There's 3 different desserts. You have to make the roses, you have to use a mold to make the cakes. It looks freaking delicious, it looks beautiful, but it takes a lot of time. I feel like with a project like that, you're gonna give it to someone that you really admire, or someone who like really deserves it, right? But what if you have a lot of friends? Now personally, I'm not flexing and saying that I have a lot of friends, because in my mind, I really don't. I have a small circle of people who probably ignore me most of the time. But recently there was a rare occasion that I actually went out with a group of people, and it was very close to Christmas as well, and me being a giver and not necessarily a taker, I mean, if you're gonna give me things, I'm not gonna refuse, but you know, the joy of giving, right? That's what Christmas is all about. So going off of that bento idea that I had before, I wanted to do something a little smaller scaled for each person that was going to be at this gathering. And also, I didn't want to break the bank. There's gonna be multiple people, I'm gonna need multiple boxes, I don't want to make multiple recipes for multiple people, there's just a lot of shit to do. So I went to my favorite Japanese store when I'm trying to save a buck, Daiso. Now the Daiso in Japan, 5 billion times better than any Daiso that you're gonna find in America. No cap. I think when I was living in Tokyo, I furnished my whole apartment with just Daiso things. They have literally anything you need for your apartment at like $1.50. Now the Daiso in America does have the bare minimum, and one of those bare minimum things are bento boxes. Now you're not gonna find anything fancy, but you get what you pay for. And what did I pay for a 1-layered and 2-layered bento box? Well, 300 and 400 yen respectively, which turned out to be about $4 and $5. Now next, I needed to choose a recipe that's just easy, because I have to fill 6 different layers in these bento boxes for 6 people. And so when I'm just stumped and out of ideas, of course the thing I do is browse YouTube. And there's this channel, maybe you've heard of it, it's called Tasty Japan. They are the Japanese version of the regular Tasty, obviously by the name, but they have some pretty awesome recipes there that usually don't turn out when you actually try it, and if they do turn out, they're 500% less beautiful than what you see on the video, obviously. But I always go there for inspiration, and one of the things that inspired me was a matcha tiramisu recipe. Now my motto in life is, if it's already easy, make it easier. So I took that recipe, I put my own twist on it, and I'm gonna share with you the process and the results, and I think it turned out pretty good. So here we go. There's honestly nothing easier than box cake mix. Like, you see the famous YouTubers who can't cook make cake box mix, and it's super proud of themselves, so if they can do it, then you can do it too. The original recipe asked for castellas or lady fingers, but I don't respect people who use lady fingers as the cake part in tiramisu because it honestly doesn't absorb well as other spongier cakes. But feel free to use whatever you want. The only suggestion I have for this method is to use a cookie sheet or a very long flat pan to bake your cake. In my case, I didn't want the cake to rise too much since the bento boxes are not that tall, so this method worked perfectly to fit into these boxes. I then used the boxes as molds to cut the cake, and yes, you're gonna make mistakes, and some pieces might break off because nobody is perfect, but it really doesn't matter because you're gonna soak this shit anyways. If you're using multi-layered bento boxes, use the smallest tier as the mold, because if you use the top tiers, they're usually a little bit bigger and they might not fit into your smaller tiers when you're adding the cake into the bento box. You're then going to transfer your cake to a pan so that you can soak the cakes in the matcha. I mean, look at these perfectly cut out cakes. This is already turning out freaking awesome. Then, make your matcha. I used 2 teaspoons of matcha for the amount of cake that I had, which worked well for about 4 pieces of cake. But you might want to adjust depending on the sweetness of your cake. Box cake mix is naturally ultra sweet because that's the reason it tastes good and you can't screw it up. Also, please make sure that you're sifting your matcha, because if there's a lot of chunky pieces in it, it's not going to blend well with the water, so you need to do that. I blended my matcha with a milk frother because I'm high class and also I work in a cafe. and then just let those little cakeys soak for a few minutes until they've absorbed most of the liquid. In the meantime, let's get creamy with it, aka let's make the cream. Whip up some whipping cream and don't forget to add the powdered sugar, very important. You can eyeball the sugar and then taste after whipped, then add more if necessary. Obviously, I'm not a measurement guy, I just throw it in and pray. I split my whipped cream in half before adding the secret ingredient, mascarpone, which I just recently found out is a rich man's cream cheese. But don't go trying to use regular cream cheese because it's different apparently. We then prepare our bento box tiers and put our matcha soaked cakes into the bento boxes. Yes, from here on out it's gonna be a bit messy, so make sure to clean around the boxes because we're putting this on Instagram, of course. Next, we're gonna add our mascarpone and whipped cream mixture, being careful not to overfill. I also wanted to avoid overfilling the sides because I didn't want to put the top on and have all the cream gush out and then it would be me licking the cream off the floor so there wouldn't be any waste. Then at the top, we want to add a whipped cream layer, which really isn't necessary, but I thought having layers would be a little bit fancier. We'll finish up by using a butter knife to smooth out the top, and finally, we're going to add matcha powder to the top. I went heavy with the matcha on top because I really do like matcha, and I wanted to make sure that the overall taste of this dessert was matcha overload. A quick reminder once again that it's super important to sift your matcha, just so that you're not getting any clumps, especially on the top. It's a much better feel, it just looks better, and it tastes better as well. And surprisingly, the tops fit in perfectly, and I was pretty much done. Just had to clean the sides so it didn't look like a school lunch for a kindergartner. Some bentos come with a strap to keep things together, but most bentos don't, which means you need a furoshiki, aka cloth that you wrap around things. That's not the literal translation, I just kind of made stuff up. But I got these banana ones from Daiso, and it really just brings the mood together because people would probably think that they're getting banana bread from the outside. But psych, it's matcha, bitch. Wrapping bentos are actually really easy. It's a quick skill to pick up and you'll use it for the rest of your life. Maybe, probably not. But after some tough wraps, I was finally finished. So here's a quick montage.
Should we stay at home? It feels so good. Yeah, it's Christmas time.
And there you have it, a matcha tiramisu that fits in a bento box, and from the messages that I got afterwards, it's pretty damn delicious. Now I think this is a great alternative to the other bento box that I made just because the recipe is so much easier and it's just one recipe. You can fill the whole damn box with just one thing. I think the only thing that I would change for what I made is I would use a higher quality matcha. I know the matcha that I used didn't have that bright green that a lot of people look for because of oxidation, because it was a little bit older and it was a cooking matcha. If you're gonna use matcha, please use ceremonial matcha. Regular people, they might not know the difference, but a lot of people, you can really just taste the difference. From someone who works at a cafe, trust me, you can really taste the difference. If you end up trying this recipe at home, or that's probably the only place you're gonna try it, honestly, make sure to tag me on Instagram if you take a picture of it. My Instagram as well as all my other socials are at matokamilktea, and if you're not following me on all my socials, make sure to do that. Also, make sure to like this video and make sure to subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and do what every other YouTuber tells you to do, but on my channel. And I'll see you next time. Peace.